The Utah Legislature says it wants to appeal Judge Dianna Gibson's redistricting ruling, but a comment that a Utah lawmaker made on a podcast suggests there's something else going on. Here's what happened in court on Monday. The legislature is pushing Judge Dianna Gibson to declare at least part of the case as final. They've publicly said that they need that to appeal her ruling that put in place a congressional map that created a Democratic-leaning district in Salt Lake County. The plaintiff's attorney dropped a bombshell. He says Republican Senator Todd Weiler went on his podcast recently and said that if Judge Gibson enters a permanent injunction instead of a preliminary one, the legislature could just pass a brand new map for 2026.
Prop 4 says that if there's a permanent injunction, that gives the legislature the right to restart the map drawing process all over again. If we do an interlocutory appeal, there's no permanent injunction, which means we can't start the map drawing process all over again.
Think about that. The legislature is in court right now asking the judge to certify her ruling as final so they can appeal it. But one of their own senators is on his podcast floating the idea that they could use that same final ruling as a loophole to pass another map and start this whole circus over again. When Judge Gibson asked the legislature's attorney about it, he tried to brush it off. He said that you can't take what one lawmaker says and apply it to every member of the legislature. But here's the thing about Todd Weiler. He has developed a habit of saying the quiet part out loud. You may remember back in January, I got denied a press credential to cover the legislature. The official reason? They changed their policy to exclude independent journalists. Very official, very bureaucratic, nothing personal. But then a recording surfaced. It's Weiler talking to a group of charter school students at the Capitol. A student asks him, why are independent journalists not part of the media in Utah anymore? And Weiler just tells them the truth.
Well, I think that there's only one independent journalist that wasn't given credentials this year, and he has kind of burned some bridges with some of the House and Senate leadership, and I think the legislative leadership is showing who's the boss.
That recording is now part of my lawsuit because it turns out when you admit on tape that you targeted a specific journalist for retaliation, that's not great for your legal position. So when Weiler goes on his podcast and floats this idea about just passing another map, I take it seriously. And you should too. This might be what lawmakers are planning to do. They don't want an appeal. They want another bite at the apple. Another way to undo what voters approved in Proposition 4. This all seems aimed at creating procedural space to do what they've done twice already. Ignore the voters and gerrymander the congressional maps. The legislature has had plenty of chances to appeal, but they just didn't do it. And now their windows are closed. Judge Gibson kept asking the legislature's attorney, why didn't you appeal in August when you had the chance? Why didn't you use the other appellate tools that you had? And their attorney was cagey. He really couldn't answer. He just said that they had to be careful about discussing privileged information. But you know what's not privileged? Todd Weiler on his podcast telling you exactly what they're up to. Look, I can't say for certain what the legislature's real plan is here, but I know this. When Todd Weiler says that this is what they're planning to do, you should listen. He told those students that denying my credential was about showing who's the boss. Now he's telling podcast listeners that a permanent injunction might let them pass another map. Pattern recognition isn't that hard. Judge Gibson said she'll have a ruling sometime before Christmas. My guess, it's probably not going to go the way the legislature wants. During that hearing, it was pretty clear she wasn't buying what they were selling. As soon as we get more information, I'll be sure to let you know. In the meantime, if you want more stories like this in your feed, give me a follow on this app, or you can head on over to my website, utahpolitics.news.